Hi there, yes teachers. Firstly, sorry I can't be there in person. I figured this year would be a perfect one to give you some Zoom PTSD, looking at someone speaking on a screen rather than face to face. But yeah, sorry I can't be there. And I just want to say, as a parent who's had a couple of people go through yes, thanks for all that you do, because I'm well aware that the teachers are the thing that makes the difference between motivated students that are keen to do it and do it, and ones that are slack. The amazing Adoya has given me a few questions to answer, so I'm going to kind of give you some thoughts. I've been around yes for a few years now as a mentor and judge and parent, obviously. So what I would say is that these are just random ideas and thoughts from me. I'm no guru, I'm no expert on anything, so take it all with a grain of salt. The other thing I'd say is sorry that my camera keeps flickering. You'd think I would be able to fix it, but I can't, so there you go. So the first thing is really about at the early stages around ideation. So how do we help our teams find a real problem to solve, and what's a good process? And it's always really interesting on that first session at ARA each year when the students come in, and there's three groups. The first group don't have a clue. They have no idea what they're going to do, and they're busy looking at previous yes teams, looking at other things that have won. Then you have the students who have an idea, and their idea is one that's going to boil the ocean. They're going to be the next Ford or Zero or something. And then the third ones are the ones that are gold, that are kind of like have done what I think is the right process, in as much as I know anything, and that is that they have a particular passion and they really want to share that passion with other people. And so I always remember a couple of years ago there was a young woman who loved gardening, and her idea was around really simple idea, building garden packs so that young kids at preschool and stuff could start on their journey with growing vegetables. It's not going to boil the ocean. It's not revolutionary. I don't know where she went with it, but in the sort of innovation world, they talk about scratching your own itch, and the best businesses are where people have built something based on a problem, or a passion, a problem that they face, or a passion that they have. So that would be my first thing. Encourage your students to think about what they're into, and can they build a business based upon what they're into, what they know about, what they do, their hobbies, those sorts of things. And then the next thing, which is kind of related to that, is around innovation. And how important is the product / innovation, and should this sway the judges? And it's kind of interesting because I'm always a little bit troubled, because you see those students who've got an idea, but they've sort of had pushback from their peers or from their teachers, or maybe from themselves, that it's not innovative enough. The things out there that are actually innovative are pretty limited. Most successful businesses take an existing idea or a group of existing ideas and do a really good job of executing them, of commercializing them. So I wouldn't sweat too much around the innovation thing. I'm not saying you should do the generic t-shirt company that every yes team seems to do or think about doing, but don't have your students stop what they're doing because the idea that they've got that they actually like isn't sufficiently innovative enough, because I don't think that should be a massive metric. And then there's a validation question, and that's a tricky one. I mean, validation is a really hard thing to do in the real world, in real business, and it's a hell of a lot harder for yes students. So I know I've seen copious numbers of surveys that the students have done where they reach out to 40 people and would you buy this product? Yes. Is it useful? I would say no. It ticks a box. Potentially it ticks a box that maybe NCA requires or yes requires. But true validation is actually getting a product or a service out into market and having people pay for it. The other thing that is my pet hate is the people who see their validation, and often this is a thing with the private schools, dare I say it, who see their validation being, we have a bunch of, we have a captive market, we have a bunch of rich parents that will do anything for their darlings and will buy any product or service whether it's useful or not. To me, that's not validation. So my push to the yes teams, especially from the private schools, is if your product and service relies on selling to your parents and parents of your peers at your school, personally, I don't see that as a win. If your product or service is one that can win, across different schools and different socio-economic groups, that's important. That's a little bit of an aside from validation, but I think, we want to think about things that are actually sustainable on a broader footing than just the captive market of that particular school. And then a part of that is connecting with the community and how do students do it well. And it really varies. And again, I think this reflects back on the what is the right place to find an idea, and the right place to find an idea is people's passion. So I remember, again, I think it was last year, there was a team that did the ski straps from recycled seatbelts, and they were skiers, they were part of some club ski fields, they had a group of people that shared the same product. That's a great way to connect with their community. So this is part of the validation, but it's really important that you have your posse behind you, I guess. And I think about us at Cactus. We are very, very cognizant of the fact that our customers actually have a sense of ownership, and we have an obligation to respect that and honour that, and to make decisions that are aligned with that. And so I think it is really important for your students to start thinking about who their people are for their business, their product or their service. So then getting on to production, let's say they have a product, they have a service or whatever. What should people consider in terms of their production? How and where do they do that? What's hard? How do you make it easy? So the way to make it easy, well, the best way to make it easy is to drop ship a product on AliExpress and sell it to your friends. Anyone who knows me will know that that's 180 degrees, different from what I actually believe in. So easy isn't necessarily good. I think that I always like initiatives where people actually have to make a product. Obviously, it's something that I'm aligned to myself and in my business, but so that would be my preference. But then within that, there's ways that you can make it easier. And this is again not trying to boil the ocean. Often you have those students who really try and bite off more than they can chew. And so, for example, there's the team this year, Destination Yes, from Timaru, I think, who are doing kind of like a dry bag for tramping, dry bag that you can do washing in. It's a pretty simple idea. It requires a product. They had that product made at a factory, not at our factory, at another factory here in Christchurch. And they really simplified. They found a product that was actually made up of 2 or 3 components, that was very easy to make, very quick to make, reducing the complexity out of their production process. Going offshore is really hard. I mean, I'm not talking about drop shipping because that's easy, but getting anything made offshore is hard, and I would say essentially impossible for a yes team given their time constraints and funding constraints and all those sorts of things. But getting in early. So the key thing is there's nothing worse than students who come to you with an idea and expect it to take 2 weeks to get from ideation to finished product, and that isn't the case. I think about us at Cactus. At the moment we're doing spoiler alert, we're doing a singlet, a variation on the classic Kiwi black singlet, and for us who have designers and machinists and pattern makers and all that stuff in-house, it's still a months long process. So students need to be really aware how long it takes to to go from idea to creation. So give yourself time and give yourself space, especially since you're doing a bunch of other subjects and this isn't the only thing you're doing all day, every day. So then they've got a product, they've got a service, they've got, you know, out to market. The next thing is the pitch. And so in a beautiful world, in a just world, it wouldn't matter how well they pitch. You know, they would be assessed on their merits. Unfortunately, we live in a world that isn't just and equitable, and so it really does come down to the pitch. And we have all seen teams that have nothing, that are nothing. It's all smoke and mirrors, but they pitch really well. And that doesn't change in the real world, obviously. I mean, I spent a bunch of time with Rod Drury in the very early days of Xero, even before they launched. And they didn't have a product, they didn't have customers, they didn't have anything. They had a great PowerPoint presentation, they had you know, fantastic people on the board, they had Rod who had done it before a couple of times, but it was all smoke and mirrors. And the reality is that in this early stage stuff, in high tech and high growth and in the venture backed world, it is all fake it till you make it. So your pitch is incredibly important, and so be confident. Don't be cocky, because no one likes, you know, these are 18-year-old students. Everyone knows they're 18-year-old students. None of them are billionaires. None of them have done it 15 times before. So don't pretend that you do that. So show a bit of vulnerability, but confident vulnerability. You know, I tell all my teams, before you go on stage, as you're walking on, you go up to all three judges, you introduce yourself, you tell them what you do, what your role is, you try and connect with them. A, because it pads out your pitching time. It gives you, you know, another minute to connect without having to do that in the minutes of your pitch. But it's about that connection. So that's really important. In terms of how many people should pitch, I firmly believe that it should be one person. The CEO should be pitching. Fine to have the other people on stage. Absolutely fine to have them answer questions about their particular area. But this is a pitch. For, you know, in the real world, we have, you know, people pitching angel groups. This is a pitch for the business to raise money. The business is represented by the CEO, so very clear in my mind. It should be one person pitching, and I feel really strongly about that. Also, continuity. It just looks bizarre when you have, you know, one person talking for 30 seconds and then handing off to another. It's just quite incongruous. So yeah, that would be my thing. PowerPoint. Keep it simple. Not many words, great imagery. Don't try and do anything flashy. Don't do, you know, complex transitions. Don't do video. Just keep it simple. The best pictures in the world are probably 10 to 12 pages with not many words, really descriptive imagery. But number one piece of advice to students: there's 1,000 million billion pictures on YouTube that they can watch. Go and watch them. Watch pictures from, you know, from US tech companies. Watch pictures from Xero. Watch previous Yes pictures. That's how to see how you pitch well. And it's hard. You have to practice. You know, there's some people that don't speak particularly well, that find it hard. They're not very confident talking to an audience. So practice. You know, I encouraged my son this year to practice. You know, I said, you know, 3 months before pitch day he should have his pitch written, and he should be practicing that every week, and obviously iterating upon it. Clearly he didn't, because he doesn't listen to what I say, but that's what they should be doing, and the good pitchers do that. Finances. So what information is important to present? Yeah, I struggle with this one, because by the letter of the law, in terms of Yes, it's very prescriptive about what you want, which is a little bit jarring, because, you know, so if I was talking to a bunch of entrepreneurs that were going to pitch an angel group for real investment, I would say, tell me about total addressable market, tell me about how you scale your sales, tell me about what it costs, you know, to get your sales. And in the software space, there's a few different kind of metrics, like, you know, churn, average revenue per user, lifetime value, customer acquisition cost, those sorts of things. But So those are the things I would say in the real world. Yes is much more prescriptive, where, and I actually don't agree with Yes's approach around, do a P&L and do a 12-month forecast. Those don't work in the real world. They sure as hell don't work in the Yes world. So I guess what I'm saying is, well, if Yes demands that you need to do a certain thing, then you need to do that certain thing to get those points. I think that most judges who actually know business or know business growth are going to be looking more about what is the size of this market, what is the ability of this team to execute it, and has this team thought about the actual costs. So when you get a team that pitches on stage and says, yeah, we're going to make this product, it costs us 35 cents, we sell it for $10. Does this team know about tax? Does this team know about GST? Has this team actually thought about labour? Because most teams don't. Has this team thought about eventually you're going to have to stop using the school kitchen and you're going to have to hire a space? So just being a bit more robust. So less about a very refined P&L and more about simply understanding your business and what that looks like when it has to perform in the real world, or if it is to perform in the real world. In terms of a markup, in software, markup is really big. You don't really talk about markup in software because essentially the marginal cost is nothing for each additional customer. In my world, in making a physical product, especially making a product here in New Zealand, markup is tiny. And so if you can make 50-80%, that's great. So when you see a team on stage saying, we've got a 10,000% markup, immediately what it says to me is this team doesn't understand their costs. And either they're selling for a price that is impossible, which is unusual because normally they actually underprice. Normally it's they just don't understand their cost structure, and to me that's a red flag. Some judges have less worries about that stuff. Horses for courses, and that's the difficulty. You don't know who is going to be the judge, and so if your team can do a bit of research about the judges and find out what what they're into, that helps. But it's a difficult one. It's random. Again, it's really variable. In an ideal world, you would have judges that would be excited about a proposition, excited about a team's ability to execute. We don't live in an ideal world. Some people like different things. Some people like a really charismatic speaker. Some people like the emotional heartstrings being tugged upon. So you don't know. I mean, what should excite judges and what generally excites judges is an idea of scalability. This is a real business that could actually work in the real world. This is a team that really has a passion for doing it. Those are kind of defaults that will excite judges. So I would encourage the teams to actually think about. I always say to the teams when I'm doing the mentoring, if all you want to do is get excellence or merit or whatever in year 13 business, that's easy. Anyone can do that. Just turn up, do the work, study a bit for the exam, whatever, you can do that. That's not a biggie. If you're actually passionate about business and if you actually want to be involved in business, in your working life further on, this is an incredible opportunity. It's an opportunity that I didn't have. And so I think that the key thing is think about this as, it doesn't matter whether you go to Yes Regionals, it doesn't matter whether you win nationals, other than the fact that if you can do it here, you can do it somewhere else. So absolutely dive in, boots and all. Think about this as a real passion project, and you'll be lucky teachers if you get one student a year that is that person that is absolutely passionate. But I would really encourage you to foster that passion, and that's that passion that will really drive them to success. So that isn't really an answer around how to pitch well or how to do well at regionals, but it is an answer around how to take that rough diamond that you'll get every now and then and to really polish it up and have something amazing from it. So I hope that was useful. Probably wasn't, but I'm around, and if anyone ever wants to chat, and I'm more than happy to get involved with your teams and to talk to them and to come and talk to your classes and whatever. I mean, I think this is what New Zealand needs to do. This is how we're going to resolve our future, and so I applaud you for what you do and what your students do. Thanks.